Welcome to part two. We're joined by Kent from Ireland. Women love him, men want to be him. Loves his boxing. Hopefully he'll be clicking on any second. He's always late, Kent. Always late. Always. Oh, Kent. Kent is always late. It's Kent. How you doing, Kent? Hey there, mate.
How you doing, Russell? All right. Part two.
I'm all right. Yeah, part two. So we've dealt with the Zhang situation. I'll let you finish off on it. What next for Zhang and what next for Joe Juggernaut Joyce, the big stiff?
I think what they need to do now, Zhang has been active. I think the only way for him now, a big fight now, is potentially the Usyk fight, and wait for it, and just
Yeah.
wait for just wait for a big fight.
He'll not want to do what Joyce did and risk it, will he, while he's mandatory?
No, they'll not do that. They'll keep him active. I think Frank Warren will keep him active. You'll probably see him in 4 or 5 months' time having a mark time fight against somebody that he's just going to run through to keep him active.
Dave Allen.
I don't want to see him fight again.
Don't you want to see David Ring, not even against Juggernaut Joe?
Definitely not. Joe Joyce would smash Dave Allen to pieces.
What, even now?
Yeah, smash him to pieces. What's Dave Allen done the last 3 years?
At Lion Bars?
Do you even say that he would even be credible of even sharing a ring with Joe Joyce? Nothing.
No, Dave's made a fool of himself really with his 15 minutes of fame because he kept promising and promising and promises, and every fight he was stronger, faster, quicker than a speeding bullet and taking it serious. And Operation White Rhino 8.6, 8.7, 8.8. We just keep going round and round in circles, and eventually I think people just looked in the mirror who've handled him over the last 10 years and said, you know what, enough's enough, innit?
He showed nothing against Fraser Clark. Fraser Clark, heavyweight with zero power, zero spite.
Do you know Steffi Bull? I don't get on with him, right? But when he had his last fight, he fought Curtis Woodhouse, right? And I used to see him jogging about in area, and he would train his knackers off for that last fight. His last roll of the dice, right? He trained hard as out, and he just couldn't get on that line. And sometimes, if you do that, you've got that man in the mirror moment. Steffi can look in the mirror and say, "Get it his best." Can Dave Allen look in that mirror and say, do you know what? I could have done any more. Could he have done more in his career to train harder and take it serious?
Look at his last performances. Absolutely. That last performance was shockingly bad against a heavyweight he could beat. He could beat any heavyweight could beat Fraser Clark right now.
So we're going to go for Zhang. We're going to go for Zhang fighting in Usyk, within 12 months. And we're going to go Joe Joyce back to drawing board. Is that, and then hopefully Dubai. Is that what you're thinking, Kent?
It makes sense for Usyk, and I know Usyk isn't a money driven fighter, and he's not, but he's not going to get he's not going to get very much money for the Hrgovic fight. The purse bid will be very low for that, and it won't be great. So if he doesn't get the Fury fight, what else is there out there for him? What other fight is out there for him that people are going to see? And the thing with Sang is he's a non-speaking English fighter, but he's a fan favorite. He actually connects.
Only because he's a, he looks a bit odd, doesn't he? And he's walking around going, "Chat shit gets hanged," all that kind of nonsense. And it fits in with narrative that Johnny Fisher's dad likes Chinese food. He's become like a Chinese funny man like Dave Allen, hasn't he? But Chinese version.
But he can fight.
But he can fight, yeah. Well, when Dave knocked Brown out, everybody was saying Dave could fight, and then he never really put much effort in after that, did he?
No, it was disappointing. But I think Zhang in a funny way connects with the fans, and he's a quirky personality. He seems to be very very likable. He's got a lot of likability.
He's likable like you, Kent, isn't he?
I wouldn't say I'm not likable these
Oh,
days, to be honest
you're
with
not
you.
much. You're not sociable because you don't have a swill, do you? And you don't have a smoke or a sniff, so you're not sociable. But you're likable, Kent. I like you. You're
Oh,
likable.
thanks very. I try my best, Russell. Thanks very
Peter
much.
Fury likes you. So Richard and Julian like you. So Dripping Tap likes you. So that's all that matters, isn't it, mate?
We're boxing people, aren't we? We're boxing
We
people.
love the sport of boxing. Right now, let's move on from this. Chat shit gets zanged and all that nonsense. I don't see Fury calling him out. He'll be parked up for Usyk now. We spoke about Joyce. We both agree that Joyce is probably gonna have to have another interim fight, and then hopefully the bar. But let's move on to your favourite subject, Kent. The Krusher Ben affair. What is happening there with the Krusher Ben affair? It's like some saga that just keeps going on, and it's like 48 hours, isn't it? We had him Murphy and Nick Nolte, yet another 48 hours, yet another effing 48 hours. It's just gone on and on and on every day for since last July, hasn't it?
It's like Death Wish 10.
It's like Fast and Furious 25 or Essex Boys 144.
Oh, flip me. To be
Essex,
fair,
Essex Boys episode 26. Pat Tate sniffs coke.
to be fair, I actually liked all the Death Wish films. I thought they were all absolutely brilliant.
Is
I'm a
that what
big
you
Charlie.
dream about when you go to bed at night, Ken? You running
Big
around as Charlie Bronson with a death wish and just evening up the score on loads of bad guys.
the character was Paul Kersey, so that was the character. I actually liked the remake, the Bruce Willis remake. I thought it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. But
You like them hero films, don't you? Where we have like a good guy, don't you, Ken?
well, it's good. It's good to see the good guys actually win for once, isn't it?
Do you know you remind me of, Kent? Oh, this kid I'm not going to say his name on here because he's an ex gluehead and I don't knock about with him no more.
Thanks for
But when
that.
we were in fourth year at infants, he used to have this like not a BMX, just it'd be like 1979 that summer. It'd be it was like a little chippy bike thing. I forgot what it was called or a budgie thing, but he had this like siren on it. He thought he were like a copper, and he used to be so. He used to be. We used to go around in summer holidays. We used to go in school gates would be open for workmen, and we used to burn around on our bikes, and you remind me of him because he used to come zooming up to me on it, and it were like police siren, and I used to be like, "Get away from me, you little dweeb." That's you, Ken, in it with your police siren.
Definitely not.
Hey, because into like a copper or a vigilante or something like that, Charlie Bronson in that film.
Yeah, well, what happened was, he was an architect. Basically, he was an architect, and his wife was murdered, and he basically went out and looked for the perpetrators of his wife's death and avenged it. And then the second film was basically the same. Then, they've
You've
all the
watched
same.
all? Have you watched all nine of them, Ken?
Five.
Five is it? Oh, five to correct me there, lad. I know there's loads. It's like Essex Boys, isn't it? And Rocky.
Oh, now you can't criticize Rocky, but
No, we can't.
I'm just absolutely sick to death of seeing all these Essex Boys films, basically about doormen.
Yeah, basically about doormen, drug addict, bullies, basically. And half of it's a load of crap anyway, because I've heard back. Do you know what I mean?
It's terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Mike, your man's been wearing that wig for 10 years now. It looks ridiculous.
Oh, Terry Stone.
Terry Stone's been wearing that wig for 10 years now.
He's going to
It,
get
it,
typecast, isn't he, Terry Stone, as the only person he can play is Tony
well,
Tucker.
I think he's only ever played Tony Tucker in the Essex Boys. I think he played him in another Essex Boys film as well as his franchise Essex Boys films. But listen, I thought the first one was good, but the rest of them after that have been absolute trash. So they
When
have.
Terry Stone gets up in the morning, does he shout, "Big Park"? Does he shout that in the morning when he gets up, Terry Stone?
I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, then. Well, Krusher fought. What did you make of it?
Well, he fought a guy who turned pro as a strawweight. Uh, you know,
What, as a
I,
strawweight, Ken? What, like 7 stone or something? 8 stone?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that
uh,
strawweight ended up a middleweight, didn't he? Or light middle.
yeah. But to be honest with you, Russell, I didn't watch him.
No.
I didn't watch him. I'm not gonna come on and slag him and criticize the fight and say I actually sat down and watched it, because if I sat down, I felt if I sit down and watch him, I'm a part of the problem.
Do you think that Usman's back on the scene? Dr. Usman?
Has he still got a board license?
I don't know. It's all a bit of a whodunit, Kent, isn't it? It's all a mystery, isn't it?
I just think I agree with everything that Frank Warren done a great interview last night. You should check it out. It is absolutely savage. Frank Smith, he absolutely destroys Frank. Do you know what? I actually think Frank Warren right now would slap Frank Smith about, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Frank's
No
from the
problem.
streets, isn't he, Frank? He's about that life. Old
He's
Bricktop.
he's proper. He's from a council estate. But it's a cracking interview. You should go and check it out. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But I didn't watch the fight. I don't like watching Conor Benn. I don't like him. Uh, I'm sick of hearing his old man, knock off Nigel. I remember when knock off Nigel come back a lot of years ago and announced he was coming out of retirement, and he wasn't taking those little fellas anymore, and he was going to fight Saki Obiga on a pay-per-view platform. That absolutely sickened me with Nigel Benn. That showed me what he was about, and I'm just sick to death of hearing Nigel Benn calling out. He's desperate. Nigel Benn Senior is desperate, so he is.
Well, they don't want to miss
Because
the boat. Listen, they're about money, aren't they? Nigel Benn back in the day, right? He didn't want to fight Bomber Graham, so he went over to WBO in America, didn't he? And nobody recognised the belt then. The British Boxing Board controlled him. And Ben said he'll bypass domestic level, which he did, fair enough. Now his son has. That's because they want to go straight for the big money. That's all. So I expect Conor Benn to be strutting around with a WBF belt in the next few weeks.
the WBF bronze belt,
Bronze International.
bronze international interim WBF belt. But to be honest with you, it's who who has he fought in his career that gives him the right to call out anybody?
Yeah.
Who's he fought?
Conor Benn, he hasn't fought anybody, has he? He hasn't beat anybody of any note, has he? And all the fighters that he's been in with, they've got shocking KO percentages. The actual KO percentage for every single one of Ben's fights, add it all up and divide it by his 22 fights. The opponent's KO ratio was 23.8.
And you go back and I actually go back and what you said there, at least Nigel actually fought. You look at who Nigel fought coming up. Anthony Logan was a hard fight.
Yeah, well, I'm Anthony Logan. We're doing well against him.
Anthony Logan was a really good fighter, an
Yeah,
excellent fighter. You look at coming up through, you look at, he fought Michael Watson. Michael Watson at that time was a class act. He was a real class act fighter in Michael Watson. Michael Watson at that time was world class before Ben and Eubank, had been fighting. Let's not forget before the Eubank fight that Michael Watson had fought Mike McCollum and lost to Mike McCollum. Uh, Mike McCollum, for me, is one of my favorite fighters of all time. Even after even after the Eubank loss, he fought the likes of Robbie Sims. Remember, they brought Robbie Sims over. That was Marvin Hagler's
yeah.
half brother. So he actually fought. He actually fought more domestic level fighters than his son. He's completely bypassed that level. Completely bypassed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's why don't you think sorry? Do you think it'd be better if he came back to England, sorted it out with board, and then just got stuck into welterweight division? And if he has to admit to putting something in his body that were a mistake, and he takes full responsibility, and then he started fighting domestic guys at welterweight, I can see him winning fans over, but they're that blinded by money and greed, aren't they?
I agree with you, and this has been 18 months. 18 months ago, this happened. You know, even now, the stuff that Nigel's talking is nonsense. He's coming out now and talking about 2 glasses of wine a night and all, and this and that. And he's making it all about him. Where
He's
it
having
should
a
be,
good life, isn't he? 2 glasses of wine a night. He's on more than me.
you know, uh, the whole thing has basically turned everybody against him, and the fact that they had to run away to California State Boxing Commission and announce the fight at 3 days' notice. It just makes it, it just makes it, it just gives it an even badder taste in the mouth of boxing fans. And I think the idea of, that, yeah, they're calling out Eubank Jr. They know that fight is never going to happen in a million years unless the board are involved. That fight's not going to happen.
Do you see any twists and turns in that Eubank Ben fight? Because I'd be surprised if it happened at all now. That with state and with tension between board and matching, because there's tension there now, isn't there?
I think it looks really bad, and I think when you have somebody like Frank Smith calling, you know, calling somebody like Frank Smith calling, flip me, my head's gone blank. What do you call him? Head of the board.
Robert Smith.
Basically, he's calling Robert Smith a pillock. Let's roll back here.
Yeah.
Robert Smith was a professional boxer and an amateur. He would slap Frank Smith about if he wanted. So Frank Smith's getting a wee bit above his station and calling out people and calling people this and that. Robert Smith would slap him about like he's nobody's business. So he wants to shut his mouth. I think when you have that there, it's not professional. It's really bad, and it's, of course, it's going to affect the relationship between the board and Matchroom. And he at one stage he said last week that Conor Benn could finish the board. Hi.
How can he finish board? By doing what? Is he going to knock them all out?
Well, he didn't knock anybody out on Saturday night, did he?
It's not. he don't knock anybody out these days. 14 stoppages out of 22. He's not an Iceman, is he, or a roadman?
Not no more.
You know, it's a myth. It's built on his CV. That's a myth. Average KO percentage of all his opponents is 24. That means Conor Benn's got whiskers problems going back to when he got his jaw broke by O'Hara Davis. Do we agree?
Yeah, and he was hurt in the Payard fight,
Do you
massively
think
hurt.
that's why this were McKinson, Echo and the Bunnyman, Conger, David Evanesian, and Josh Kelly?
Lewis Crocker from Belfast.
That's the other one, the sixth one. Yeah, Lewis Crocker swerved all them, Annie Kent. Your man Crocker.
Lewis right now would absolutely smash Conor Benn to
What would
pieces.
Lewis do to Conor Benn, Kent?
He would make Nigel cry. That's what he would do.
Where would he send him?
He would send him. It would be a first class ticket to Button Moon.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear, Kent. That's what I like to hear.
And he would make
yeah.
Nigel cry.
What about McKinson against Ben for domestic fight? I mean, or Evanesian. They're always up for big fights. Neil Marsh and his fighters. What about Evanesian?
Evanesian is still, Evanesian had he went in and fought Terence Crawford, probably the best fighter of this generation. He came in, he tried, he took that fight. Why wouldn't he take a fight against a guy that hasn't fought anybody domestically? Anyone?
Yeah.
He would take that fight in a heartbeat. And it's funny because the language I heard at the weekend. So I always see wee things, and I always pick wee things out. So 1 minute, knock off Nigel is calling out Chris Eubank Jr. and saying that he knows we're the real A side. Okay. Then at the minute, he's talking about, see that guy we fought, Josh Kelly wouldn't have been able to deal with him. Josh Kelly wouldn't have been able to fight him. Josh Kelly wouldn't have been able to deal with that. So what I actually see next, possibly, is I don't think Josh Kelly looks good as a light middleweight and a middleweight. I don't think that's his division. I don't think he looks as good as he did as a welterweight.
Do you feel
you've got that.
Go on.
You've got that relationship with Wasserman and DAZN. I could probably see a Josh Kelly. Could you see a Josh Kelly Ben fight happening next, or would that be too much of a gamble?
Josh Kelly against Ben at 154 would be food and drink to Josh Kelly. He would put Ben on Button Moon.
Yeah, it would be a too much of a gamble for the Ben team to take up. But why was Nigel talking about Josh? 1 minute he's talking about fighting Chris Eubank Jr. for massive money, but mentioning Josh Kelly's name in the same breath, it sounded a bit bizarre, didn't it?
Sounded just a bit bizarre, didn't it, Kent?
I don't see. I think Josh. I don't think they would actually fight Josh Kelly. I think even though Josh Kelly, I don't even think at light middleweight is as good a fighter as he was at welterweight. But I still think it would be too much of a gamble for them to even take that risk. Yeah. Way too much of a gamble.
Yeah. What do you think to Spotty Frank, aka Sideshow Frank? Spotty Frank Eubank going at it every single day. In the last 8 weeks, he's put more watch time hours out across social media and interviews than he did in the whole of 2022. So where's this energy come from for Spotty Frank? Is he just mouthing out Earn's opinion for Hearn as Earn's mouthpiece, or is this how he really feels? Because we didn't get a peek at him for 10 years, have we?
Well, what I think about the whole situation is that he let his in-law brother-in-law, whatever that relationship he has with Emily Eubank, go into that fight knowing that there was 2 failed tests, and let him go into that fight to make that weight with that rehydration clause. That's the type of person he is.
Yeah.
That's the type of person he is. You know, he's coming out and he's calling Robert Smith a pillock. Robert Smith would punch him inside out and slap him about. No problem.
Oh yeah, I know that. It's just that I'm shocked at Frank's attitude lately. And I mean, he's digging Bricktop out daily and talking all sorts of nonsense, isn't he?
Well, at least Frank Warren's his own man and stands on his own 2 feet. What does Frank Smith do? What does he do?
He doesn't do no, does he? He just flies
He's a
around.
he's a T-boy from Matchroom. I tell you what, I would love him to come on and have a Zoom with me.
Would you have it with him on Hard Road, Ken?
I would love Frank Smith to come on and have a Zoom with me.
Would you have it on Hard Road with him, though, Ken?
Frank Smith?
Yeah, you and Frank Smith, Ken, on Hard
Frank
Road.
Smith. Frank Smith went to private school, Russell. He's never been in a fight in his life.
Oh, Ken, you're ruthless, Ken. Absolutely ruthless. Okay, let's switch from Spotty Frank and the adventures of Tintin, Krusher Ben and his dodgy doctor. The British Boxing Board of Control are being sued by the following Rosanna Begum, Ian John Lewis, and Jeff Hines. What do you make of it all? Jeff Hines is citing I don't know what he's citing. Is it him? Are they all citing racism? All 3 of them? I think they are, aren't they?
Yeah, I seen the documentary. I always thought John Hines was a terrible referee anyway.
Oh, Jeff Hines.
Yeah. I thought Ian John Lewis was a terrible referee. You just have to go back. You know what just kills the argument for Ian John Lewis for me is if this, he's been a board member for years.
What?
Years. Ian John Lewis.
Yeah, this is how I look at it, right, Ken? Ian John Lewis, if he had have not got sacked by board, he'd still be hanging out at the back of him and he wouldn't be saying anything about racism. If he did think they were racist, he was taking the money, wasn't he? And if you don't think they're racist, well, why are you hanging out at the back of them? Well, you'd still be hanging out at the back of them, wouldn't you, if he were there? He wouldn't have been suing him, would he, for wrongful dismissal?
So there's that narrative, then there's the other narrative as well. And I thought he was used as a scapegoat, which was wrong in the Carroll fight. They made him a scapegoat. Yes, they dropped him down from an A-star referee to whatever. And I thought that was wrong because, yes, his scorecard was terrible. I didn't agree with it. But there was also another referee in that fight who scored it for Josh Taylor. And I also think there's worse referees in the board as Ian John Lewis. I think Terry O'Connor is a dreadful referee. I remember Terry O'Connor scoring. I think it was a Bobby Vanzi Graham Earl fight. And I had Vanzi winning, very, very comfortably winning that fight. I thought he was robbed twice against Graham Earl. I remember this is the narrative as well. So you have Terry O'Connor, who fought as a heavyweight boxer and get knocked out by Stan McDermott, who was John McDermott's father. John McDermott and Tyson Fury fought for the English title. And Terry O'Connor was scoring that fight, and it was a daylight robbery, and he gave it to Tyson Fury. Why did the board let him go in as the referee, scoring referee in that fight, when there was a conflict of interest there with Terry O'Connor being knocked out by Stan McDermott in the Albert Hall in the 70s.
Yeah, I remember that. Stan McDermott, he knocked Terry O'Connor out in 1977, didn't he? And then Terry O'Connor ended up the sole judge and the sole referee in a 10-round English title fight, didn't he? With Tyson Fury against John McDermott, the son of the guy who knocked him out. Now, it was one of the worst refereeing decisions that I've ever seen in UK. But to be fair, Tyson dusted him in rematch, but we wouldn't have even had a Tyson Fury, wouldn't we, if we went for that rematch? So he needs to thank Mick Hennessy.
Yeah, he does. But that Ian John Lewis scorecard was just as bad as that Terry O'Connor scorecard, and Terry O'Connor wasn't marked down. So I see where he's coming from. Personally, I don't know what happens at the board and what happens here and what was said, and I just know what you see via scorecard and refereeing decisions. That's how I look at it. Any of that other stuff, I can't comment. That's not for us to talk about.
Yeah. Kent, I'm going to ask you, all right? Flex, is he going to get another bite at the cherry with Kell Brook?
Of course he is.
You think?
Of course he is.
Yeah, there's treading water, isn't he? You think Kell will fight again?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You think he fights Eubank on Sky?
Well, I think if you look at the trajectory of boxing, I think Kell Brook is a known name to boxing people and boxing fans and the casuals, and I think they'll buy that fight. I don't think Eubank. I think Eubank has been made mandatory for Yanabak, WBO middleweight champion. So will he want to fight Yanabak or fight Kell Brook? What draws more money for Eubank? I think Eubank's looking money fights.
Yeah.
I would prefer Eubank to take Yanabak over Kell Brook or a Conor Benn fight down the line, because if Yanabak wins the IBF belt, he's the IBF champion and the WBO champion. That's 2 world titles and a unified champion he will be. And that will be, for him, he's won 2 world titles. He's unified a division with 2 belts. He's been a really good champion in Yanabak. I would prefer him to do that than any other fight. But will that fight draw as much money as a Kell Brook fight? Personally, I don't think it does.
Yeah. We'll finish off on these last 2 then. Charlo against Canelo. What's your prediction?
I think Canelo stops him.
Yeah.
I think he runs right through him. I don't think Charlo's been active enough. I think Canelo's really good at cherry picking and picking opportunities. And I think the whole PBC thing, Al Heyman's not stupid. So he's on a 3-fight dealer with Emmons. Charlo hasn't really fought in 2 years, which means he hasn't really generated any money for PBC and hasn't really brought anything to PBC. He's just held the belt. I think it makes financial sense, and it makes really good sense in getting Canelo in, winning, beating Charlo, and fighting 2 more fights against PBC fighters. And that will mean, he's bringing that, he brings the Hispanic market over to PBC. He brings out, packed out stadiums. He basically brings money. Charlo, what has Charlo brought to PBC the last 3 years?
Not much.
Nothing. So that's a win-win situation for PBC.
Okay.
Win-win.
Right. So you've got Charlo losing against Canelo. All right. Sonny Edwards against Bam Rodriguez. Last 3 minutes.
That's a really good fight. It's a fight that I think if Eddie thinks it's going to sell and do really well, I don't think it does, and that's not a reflection on the skill and the abilities of both fighters. It's a flyweight fight. Probably Sonny Edwards and Prince Patel would probably draw better because of the controversy around Prince Patel and probably the build up. But I think it's a really, really good fight. I think Sonny's problem is he's just too good, and he kind of switches off in fights because he is that good. I think the Bam Rodriguez fight, he'll not be able to do that in that fight. I think it's a good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good. It's a trade fight. It's a trade fight.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, Kent. You've been a real tonic. I hope you're well.
You're welcome, Russell.
And you have a great day, what's left of it, and give my best to your mum. All right, pal.
Okay, Russell. Thank you. Peace out.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Kent. Bye. Well, that were Kent from Ireland, which is in Belfast. Women love him, men want to be him. Good hardcore chat from Kent. He's always on the ball, Mr. Current Affairs. So I like him. All right. Everybody have a great day. What's left of it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Peace out.